Hello, my name is Cynthia Rodriguez, and today I'll be presenting on cadmium. First off, what is cadmium? Cadmium is a chemical element and is a rare metal. Its atomic number is 48, and it is similar to zinc and mercury. It is one of the most toxic metals that we know of. It is a soft bluish white metal, just like seen in the picture right here. It was first discovered back in 1817, and at around 1907, it was used as medication for enlarged joints and scrofulous glands. Where is cadmium found? Cadmium can be found in cigarette smoke, solar panels or cells, batteries, paint, and it can be found in paint because it is known for making bright yellow, orange, and red. Can also be found in plastic stabilizers, nuclear reactors, coating pigments, food, liver and kidney meats, specifically in liver and kidney meats, some vegetables, and shellfish. It can be found in liver and kidney meats because when cadmium is ingested, it is stored in the liver and kidney, and in some vegetables because of the soil people use to grow their crops. For cadmium, the exposure dose or the amount of a substance encountered in the environment in the American population in their typical diet intake ranges anywhere from 30 to 50 micrograms per day, though the exposure levels on other parts of the world can be higher, all depending on what soil or what type of the soil they use to grow their crops. Cadmium can also be found in coal, rice, and in the soil. In the coal, it can contain significant amount of cadmium, which ends mostly in flue dust, and then cadmium in the soil can be absorbed by the crops on the land, such as rice. Back in 2002, the Chinese Ministry of Agriculture officials tested or sampled their rice, and they found out that it had a 10% excess of cadmium of what already was limited by law. Exposure. So being exposed in low levels is still toxic, though the amount you are being exposed to it and the period of time does have a big impact in how cadmium will affect your health and body. The level of entries to where they affect your body is the respiratory system, kidneys, reproductive system, and the skeletal system. How it affects the respiratory system: it can cause the destruction of mucous membranes. In the kidney, it can cause kidney stones and tubular damage. In the reproductive system, testicular necrosis, estrogen-like effects, and the affection of steroid hormone synthesis. And in the skeletal system, it can lead to the loss of bone density and mineralization. It can also cause tie disease. If cadmium enters the body orally through food or water at low levels over a long period of time, it can lead to buildup in kidneys, just like inhaling it. Cadmium can also cause damage to kidneys if you're exposed to it in high levels. In some cases, it can also lead to the bones becoming weak and fragile to the point where they can break easily. When cadmium enters the body in high amounts through water or food, it can cause severe health effects like irritation to the stomach, vomiting, diarrhea, and in extreme cases, it can even lead to death. A person who is at greater risk of being exposed to cadmium is in their work environment or people who smoke cigarettes, or a person can be exposed to high level amounts of cadmium at work, and if a worker is exposed to cadmium and inhale it in low levels over a long period of time, it can build up in the kidney and can sometimes cause kidney disease, though if it is inhaled in high levels, it can cause severe damage to the lungs, and in severe cases, it can even lead to death. Secondhand smoke. Since cadmium is found in cigarettes, it is also found in the cigarette smoke. So if you are being exposed to secondhand smokes, you are most likely being exposed to cadmium. And being exposed to cadmium is almost non-avoidable, but the levels that an individual is exposed to cadmium depends on their daily routine and, most importantly, their place of work. For example, if a person who works at an office with the policy of no smoking, their exposure levels at work are 0 to none. They work in a controlled environment. While a person who works installing, for example, solar panels or at a nuclear plant, their exposure levels to cadmium are high because of the tools they use at work and just overall their work environment. Enough studies have not been conducted to conclude how cadmium affects children in their growth and development, though the same health effects that children face when exposed to cadmium and toxic levels are the same or similar to what an adult would have, which is lung and kidney damage. And 8% of lung cancers may be attributed to cadmium. People who work with cadmium and cadmium compounds on a daily basis are the ones who are more susceptible to being exposed to toxic metals, where a person is more they can come in contact with cadmium in different ways by inhaling it through skin, touching it, or ingestion. When a person is exposed to cadmium at work, with the mode of entry being inhalation, it is usually through mist that contains cadmium dust or fumes. Being exposed to cadmium through the skin is usually because of contaminated clothes or food, and ingestion is when food contains cadmium. How to manage risk of exposure to cadmium or any other hazardous metal is by elimination of that metal from the place of work or substitution to another metal that is not harmful to the human body or is less toxic. Though wearing proper gear to the place of work is important for risk management, if the job requires you to wear a mask because you are at risk of inhaling toxic cadmium fumes, dust, or mist, it is vital to always wear that proper gear at work. When you are handling cadmium, it is important to avoid high temperatures creating dust and avoid breathing, inhaling fumes or dust. It is also recommended to use a local exhaust ventilation or other methods that will help control the exposure to fumes and dust. And whenever necessary and approved, it is important to wear safety glasses, gloves, and any other protective work clothing that is necessary. Another way to prevent the exposure to cadmium is to not smoke, and if you have a vegetable garden, it is important to test out your fertilizers for cadmium and to have a balanced diet. Symptoms of toxicity. The signs or symptoms that you have if you are being exposed to cadmium in a toxic level by eating food or drinking water contaminated in high levels of cadmium can result in vomiting, nausea, kidney damage, stomach cramps, fragile bones, diarrhea, and sometimes even death. And if you are breathing in cadmium, it can result in lung damage, fragile bones, kidney disease, and sometimes even death. Cadmium and McDonald's. Back in 2010, McDonald's voluntarily recalled over 12 million of the Shrek Forever After cups, as seen right here, because the paint that they use for the cups contained high levels of cadmium, and they just had to recall the whole collection. Um, though McDonald's is not the only business or corporation that has had issues with cadmium. Claire's and Walmart were also, back in like 2000 something, they were also selling jewelry that contained cadmium, and they also had to take it off the shelves. Cadmium has been restricted in some parts of the world, like Europe, because of the great effects that it has in our health. Overall, I think it is just important to know what you're being exposed to, and then what toxic metals you are surrounded by. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.